Welcome back to the 13th Destiny podcast. I am your host, James Magnum Cook, and of course my co-host Danielle Long is standing by in San Diego. Are you there, Danielle?
Yes. Hi.
All right, and we also have a special guest today that's on the other line, and I'll introduce her in just a minute and let her give some background, and then we'll be interviewing her. She's a return guest, so some of you know who's going to be on the show today, and if you're just happen to be going through, you'll find out who she is here in just a minute. All right, quick shout out to the Holiday Inn University Plaza Hotel, Bowling Green, Kentucky, 1021 Wilkerson Trace. As you know, I've done business with the company for over 20 years now. So if you're able to stay here in Bowling Green, check them out. But always check ahead because they are with the Sloan Convention Center, which is owned by the city, and there's a lot of events going on. So sometimes they do book out, especially sometimes through spring now and late fall. And of course, we are the home of the Corvette. And also a special shout out to my friends at Oak Grove Racing and Gaming down there in Oak Grove, Kentucky, near Fort Campbell, Kentucky, the home of the 101st Airborne, and of course also they are near Clarksville, Tennessee. All right, so let's get into today's show. And today's show, hello, Miranda Young.
Hey, Magnum. Hey, Danielle. Thank you all so much for having me on.
We're glad to have you.
Glad to have you.
And we'll go into Miranda is known as the Ghost Biker. She's a paranormal investigator. I have interviewed her previously, like in 2021. I believe we had discussed it. It was in November of 2021. And that was before I had a co-host on the show. And now we're having her with the co-host today. And of course, she also is the co-owner of the historic Scott County Jail, which is where she's talking to us from today. So would you like to ask those questions first? Danielle, I'll let you go first.
Well, or
we'll let her do it now.
Oh.
I'm sorry.
You said ask her some questions. So, hi, Miranda. Hey, Danielle. Yeah. Okay. I wanted to know first, what inspired you to become a paranormal investigator? Well, I've always had an interest in the paranormal since I was a kid, especially growing up here in the Appalachian Mountains of East Tennessee. I spent a lot of time with my grandmother, who at the time when I was really, really young, she was in her 80s, and I was really blessed to have her until I was about 23 years old. And so she lived right next door to us. So I spent really every bit of my spare time down at my grandma's house, sitting on the porch listening to her tell stories about the haunts of the Appalachian Mountains. You know, she was born in 1908, and so she had a lot of great stories. And she was one of those people that she shared a lot of folklore, a lot of superstition. She lived by the Farmer's Almanac, and just really instilled the love of storytelling in me. And so when I wasn't spending time with her, I was spending time in the libraries researching books on local hauntings and talking to a lot of the old timers in the area, listening to their stories about how things used to be and also some of the things that they had experienced. And so I kind of really come at it from that storytelling and travel aspect, rather so much than the way some other people and other investigators may come at it. But that's really how I kind of modeled my paranormal investigating, was try to find out as much about the area and about the place that I was visiting as possible. And so when I got I'd spend time in college doing research, and really any time I would travel. And so I didn't really start investigating till just under 15 years ago, when I was invited to join a team. And so I learned more about the paranormal side of things and going in and actually investigating. And then, of course, broke off and started doing my own thing back in 2018.
Wow, that's really interesting. And so when you were a little girl and you listened, did she tell you she told you ghost stories?
Yeah, she told lots of different kinds of stories. Some of them were ghost stories.
And did it scare you?
A little bit. She would, around here, a lot of the old timers called them, they called the cryptids boogers, and they called the ghost hanks. And so I can remember if I was staying at her house kind of late, she would always tell me to run as fast as I could through the field to get up to my house there, so that the hanks and boogers didn't catch you out of the woods there. So yeah, there was some times that whenever I would go to sleep, I wasn't able to sleep very well, but I loved it. And I would spend as much time as I could in cemeteries and, old buildings, that sort of thing, traveling on back roads with my dad. Yeah, it just really, invoked more of a curiosity than it did a fear.
Well, then, I was wondering for everyone to know, how would you define paranormal phenomena? Like, what is fake? What is it exactly?
I mean, really, it's anything that's not quite normal, or things that we really can't define or get an answer to, and that's where I come in whenever I'm called out to do an investigation. Is I will come out and try to see if I can either debunk or come up with a logical explanation as to some of the things that people have been experiencing, whether it be high levels of EMF, different types of wiring, noise, light pollution in the area. So I always go in with a healthy skepticism and try to see if I can come up with some type of logical explanation. If I can't, now I will never say that a place is haunted, but rather that it has some type of unexplainable activity.
Oh, I didn't get that the first time we talked. Wow, I don't think I remember that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, interesting.
Oh, that's so interesting. Do you have questions? I have more.
Yeah, I do. I'll ask her a couple questions. Miranda, what is one of your most since you're in which season are you in now? I think we just talked about that. I think you're season 7 now. Is that correct? Or
yes, we just wrapped up season 6. It aired back in October, and we're going to be re-releasing some of those episodes here in April.
Okay.
Yeah, we're working on season 7 right now.
Okay. Not divulging anything for the upcoming, but what is the most interesting thing that happened in season 6 that you could talk about to us, that they can go to your YouTube channel and all that and check it out, not without giving away a whole lot of stuff, obviously?
Sure. Well, as I was saying, I broke off from the team in 2018 and created Ghost Biker Explorations. And so I am a solo investigator, and a lot of the locations that I like to highlight are locations that maybe are not the most well-known places, because I always like to tell people that basically every town has a story that's been passed down throughout the years, and so my goal is to share those stories and determine if there's any type of paranormal activity. And so we did season 6 a little bit different this year. We went in and actually did those episodes live, and that was interesting, and it was an interesting season in and of itself, because it was the most interactive season that I've had yet. By the end of the season, we had over 350 people that were watching the episode and interacting live during the investigation. And each of these locations that we highlighted, with the exception of one, were not known paranormal locations, or they were not locations that you would essentially commercial locations that you would pay to go in and investigate. So the goal of this past season was to go in, cover locations that were either haunted villages, old haunted homesteads, or heritage museums. Each one of them fell into those categories, so it worked as a great way to essentially open up these locations to new audiences that may not have heard of those places, and that try to push them to go and tour these locations, which would in turn revenue for the places, because that's what they survived on.
Okay.
And so several of the things that we experienced that was really interesting was in South Carolina at the Haygood Mill museum site there, we played poker with it was flashlight poker with at least 3 different spirits. We were in Kentucky at the Kentucky Music Hall of Fame there in Rockcastle County, and we played some music there inside of the event venue to see if we were able to get some activity. I mean, we really were able to do some really unique experiments at these locations, and the audience was the one that drove that.
Wow.
Which was something that was really, really different from what we do. And so what I'm doing now is I'm actually re-releasing those live episodes as the produced episodes, and it will go back and it'll be more like what people are used to with Ghost Biker, with the story at the beginning and then also showing the evidence that was captured that people sent in and let me know what they saw during the lives.
Right. Something that I think has happened with you over a period of time is, I think that, and I'm going to ask you if this is true or not, I feel that you are probably well known enough now that you get a little bit better access to things than you did when you first started doing this. Am I correct on that?
I don't know. I mean, I've always
never had
not
a problem.
really had much of an issue getting into places.
Okay.
I probably have more people reaching out to come check their locations out, because I've done different events partnering with Harley Davidson, partnering with other tourism commissions, and stuff, and creating these fundraising events.
Yeah.
So I don't know if I would say that I'm able to get more access. It's just a difference in the type of places,
right? Okay.
Maybe that I go to now than what I used to go to. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I guess that's what I was kind of getting at. That maybe it was easier on that than it was maybe in the past, and maybe you wouldn't have been able to do that as easy. But I know that a lot of people have said to me, and this is coming from some other people, by the way, that were like sending me some messages, and they actually called you legendary, which I thought was interesting, because I did not get that until just recently, that a couple of people called you that, and I was like, well, that's interesting, because I know Miranda personally, and I was like, that's the first time I'd heard that. It's like, really?
That's really humbling and very, very kind.
Yeah,
I appreciate that.
Yeah, when I was reading the messages, I was like, what? Wait a minute, I know Miranda. I haven't heard that come up before until now, but I think it's because you probably do have a bigger following than maybe you did when you first started, and people just really like your stuff. At least these people that sent that to me. So anyway, I thought you'd be interested to hear that, because I was kind of shocked about it. I was like, okay, well, that's not what I normally hear out of her stuff, but I'll mention it on the show when I'm on the show. So anyway, I'm going to shoot back to Danielle real quick and let her ask you any questions that she has. Danielle, what else would you like to ask Miranda?
Yes, I'm kind of interested in, like, what kind of tools and equipment do you use when you go there?
Sure.
Do you take tools and equipment, like, each time you go? Or
I do.
What do you do? Yeah.
I do.
I know, and say what they are and stuff, please.
Sure. So I have a lot of different tools and equipment. I have to kind of specialize for each investigation, because I am on my motorcycle. So I do kind of limit some of the things that I'm taking depending on the size of the location, the stories that are behind it, any trigger items that I want to include. But I always have kind of my go bag that I have that I'm able to quickly take in to the locations, and the variety of tools that I keep in there are ones that I typically try to use on each investigation. I always keep this device that's called an EDI Plus, and I love it because
basically measures atmospheric numbers, and it'll give you the temperature in real time. It will tell you if there are sharp pressure changes, which a lot of the time I've noticed if there's a pressure change that's noted, a lot of the time we get some kind of strange and unexplained activity happen when the pressure changes. It will also note humidity, and then also sharp, hot, and cold spikes on the tool. And it has a geofoam on it, which will, if the tool is touched, it will go off, which detects vibration, and then also an EMF meter which reads electromagnetic frequency changes. So this small little box I always keep anywhere I go, because if one tool goes off, like if my flashlight goes off or if my REM pod goes off, if it's coupled with some type of atmospheric change, then it's a little more significant, and you can kind of qualify that research a little bit better. I also keep my dowsing rods with me. Dowsing rods are also known as witching rods, which are a pair of metal rods that they spin in like a little sheath that you have in your hand. And the old timers used to use them to find water. They would also use them to find bodies and unmarked graves, that sort of thing. You can use them to find a lot of different stuff. I like to use those because you don't have to worry about the battery drain. They're also simple for the spirits to use to communicate. You don't have to worry about asking them to touch a lot or to touch some kind of tool that maybe they don't quite understand or have a concept of. So I always have those with me. I always have a recorder and a video camera, because everything seems to want to happen if you when you're not ready documenting. So I always start documenting when I get there, document my setup, document when I walk in the door, just because a lot of the time things happen whenever we least expect it and when we're not actively investigating. And then I'm a big fan of the flashlights, the little mini mag lights. The theory is that the spirits can use their energy to complete the circuit and turn the flashlights on and off. They're a little bit of a controversial tool, but they are an old school paranormal tool. And when you look at the situation that's going on, the questions that are being asked, and the reliability of the responses, you can go in and you can kind of remove some of that doubt of the skepticism that goes along with those. Those are just a couple of the tools that I carry with me. I have something called a tripwire that I've become very fond of. It kind of looks like a string of Christmas lights. It's 36 feet, and these lights, they turn on independent of each other, and they turn on when there is a spike in EMF activity or electromagnetic frequency. And so I've been able to have some really good luck with those, and I like to keep those with me. Everything from laser grids to see if we can detect anything moving. Static cameras, I do carry some of those with me, because being a solo investigator, I have to cover a lot of ground a lot of the time, and so I'll set up static cameras. Like I said, I have quite a few tools, but I will kind of pare that down depending on the location, and then also if I'm taking specific trigger items that may be more likely to trigger activity in those specific locations than just the typical tools that I'm taking.
Oh, that's interesting. So then how do you tell between paranormal activity and just a natural occurrence?
Well, it really depends. One of the big things that I always do every time I'm at a location, I like to get there during the daylight hours, if possible, and take pictures of the surroundings. I like to take note of what the outside of the location is like. Is it in an area that is really busy with traffic? How far are we away from the closest train tracks? Is this an area that gets completely dark at night? If it's just a building, in and of itself that has, say, a museum that has mannequins and other items inside for display, I like to go in and try to take pictures and see what the stuff looks like during the day, because when you're in a location at night and you're in the middle of an investigation, our senses are heightened and our awareness is different. People in general are not very good. They're not very good, and they're not very reliable when it comes to being a witness, because we don't always pay attention to what's going on around us. So by going in and taking these pictures, if when I'm there at night and something gets knocked over or something happens, in a picture, and I'm not sure if it's a shadow figure or whatever, I have other pictures that I can go back and reference during the daytime to see how things looked just before I started the investigation. And so I like to try to account for all of that, get EMF readings when I come in to see if there are things that can cause EMF spikes in an area. Like, for instance, here in our jail, if you come into the booking room, your EMF detectors are not very reliable because we have our point of sale system and our Wi-Fi in here. And so that's going to cause false positive readings. Now, if you go up to the third floor, for us to turn the lights off, we have to flip the breaker and kill the power. You don't have the Wi-Fi or the phones or computers giving off anything that's going to create that false positive. So one of the ways that I try to combat and try to be able to determine what I'm experiencing is to take some time on the front end and try to get as much to account for as much of the natural things that are going on, so that I can go back and essentially debunk my stuff.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, and eyewitness testimony is no good either, so I'm well with that.
What are some for sure signs that you're like, yes, this place is haunted? Oh my.
Well, it's like I said, I will never classify somewhere as haunted. I will classify a place as having unexplained activity because I'm unable to explain it. And if somebody comes along that maybe, is better equipped with knowledge when it comes to physics or electrical engineering or something of that nature that can have a discussion to explain kind of what I experienced, then, I'm absolutely open to that dialogue. But, I'll use the jail here as an example because between myself and my business partner, we're in here up to 16 hours a day. And so we experience stuff during the day and during the night. And there have been several guided ghost hunts that I've gone on, taking people in, trying to establish communication. We've caught we caught a shadow figure in our drunk tank. I was there when the photos were taken, so I know what the light source was, and I knew what the situation was whenever she was there, and there was nothing in front of our eyes. We were getting a lot of activity, and that's why she took the picture. We were getting some really intelligent responses on our REM pod as well as our flashlights, and so she just felt she needed to take the picture. Another thing that happened, we caught two disembodied voices on one of our security cameras here when I was locking up for the night after our paranormal team had left. It was two male voices, and so I had originally heard what sounded like somebody humming up on the third floor. And so I called my business partner and I said, hey, when you come in the next morning, pull the security camera footage to see if we caught that humming. Well, when she pulled it, we didn't catch the humming, but we caught two male voices that were responding intelligently when I walked back into the room there, and it said, "There she is." Yeah, it said, "There she is," and the other said,
Oh, wow.
"Not so loud next time." So for it to be caught on our security cam footage and to be responding intelligently to what had just happened, so it was the relevance of the situation as well. You know, I can't really explain that. There was nobody else in the building, and there were certainly no men in there. It was just myself that night because the team had already left. So we look at a lot of those things. It's kind of hard to tell if you're not in the situation, you know, when people send pictures or send videos to me to try to analyze. That's always a little more challenging, but when it's something that happens to you and you've accounted for all of that, it's, you know, I have no explanation for it other than there's unexplained activity that leads to the fact that it could potentially be paranormal.
Yep.
And I will add, this was at 3:30 in the morning. There was nobody else outside at that, you know, that was talking. And by the way, this was captured on our security camera footage. It was inside the room. The audio would not pick up outside of the building because we are in a solid stone building here.
Do you feel like it's interdimensional? Do you feel like, where do you feel like these things are coming from? Like, do you think it's just you know what I'm saying? Like another world, another dimension? Like, how do you feel about this?
My theories kind of change the more I experience this. You know, now paranormal is my full-time, everyday, all-day job now. You know, being the co-owner of this location, and also expanding with the Village of Historic Rugby. And so when I first started investigating, I think I had the view that we were speaking with, you know, the spirits of people who had passed on. I tend to still lean in that direction, but I do feel just from some of the responses and some of the people that have come in here to the jail, and also some of the people that I've had on my show and have listened to their stories, I always feel like it's a very good possibility that it could be interdimensional beings. You know, I don't know for sure, but just because of some of the responses that they give, I think that's a possibility. I don't know 100% what we're speaking to, but I definitely know there's something there, and sometimes they're very intelligently responding, and other times it's just a residual a residual occurrence, I guess, that is just playing in time. We get a lot of that here as well.
Yeah, no, I've heard about, like, there's like a difference between like a residual, like, and then something that's active. Is that right?
Yes.
Can you explain that, please? Like,
yes, so the intelligent will be kind of like the example that I just gave of the voices that were captured on our security camera. I had heard the humming, and it kind of startled me. I went back into the gift shop where I was working, getting things ready to leave for the night, and the two voices came over. The first saying, "There she is," and the other saying, "Not so loud next time," which I believe they were talking to whoever it was that was humming over on the stairwell, telling them, "Hey, try to keep it down. She heard you." And so that would be intelligent. A good example of a residual haunting is the footsteps that we get up on the third floor. Sometimes when we're giving tours, we get these amazing footsteps that just sound like heavy boot steps on the floor. And they'll go sometimes for as many as 12 to 13 footsteps. And they tend to be over in the jailer's walk. And what's cool about that...
Have you seen an apparition?
Well, we've caught some photos of what we believe are some of the shadow figures that have been captured here. I have seen 2 apparitions here in the jail. One last Tuesday night. I saw one stick its arm out of the door, and then we've also been able to catch on camera a spirit that pulled a picture off the wall.
Oh, wow.
That's so scary to me. It really is. Have you ever felt threatened or endangered at any time during?
Not here at the jail.
Anywhere,
I've had some.
and like any time that you've been anywhere, you know.
I have had where I felt that I needed to step away from, stop the situation and step out of the building for a brief period of time and ground myself. I have had that on a couple locations that I've investigated. The activity just got a little too intense, and it was time to stop, just kind of step away, take a break, recenter and ground. But I've never felt as though I was ever in danger or harmed in a location.
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
Now, is there any preparation you do, like when you go in? Is there like, because I've taken some spiritual classes and things to prepare to maybe put like a shield or a wall around, or you know what I'm saying? Like how do you prepare for that? How do you prepare like when you go in? You know, not only, you know, with your equipment, you bring all that along, but in your mind and spiritually, and to protect yourself.
The big thing for me, the preparation for me starts well before I get to the location. I don't like to do investigations if I am in any other frame of mind than the current situation that I'm in. I don't like to come in overstressed out or angry or in any type of negative headspace. My focus is on the investigation and what I'm trying to accomplish at that moment, because I think intention plays a whole lot into what we experience at these locations. And I think if you are not in the right headspace, I think you set yourself up for potential negative things to happen. And I'm always trying to be grounded, be in that good mental, positive headspace. And then I always do a prayer of protection before I go in, prayer of protection when I leave. And if I feel uncomfortable about something, I'm always in prayer whenever that situation arises. I also set my boundaries when I go in of what I will allow and won't allow when it comes to spirit communication or spirit interaction. And then, if something is not what it seems to be, or I feel that a situation is kind of getting a little out of control from what I want to deal with, that's when I will step away from that situation and disengage.
Very, very, very interesting.
Yeah, and
Magnum, I've been asking her, so it's so interesting.
Yeah.
Subject. Do you have any more questions?
Yeah, I was gonna tell you real quick, Danielle. In our first interview, I had touched on the base that Miranda is a faith-based person, and so that's something that I knew about. And she takes her faith very personally, and that's a good thing that that she has that, because I think it is that protection, and she does talk about mindset. Miranda, let's talk a little bit about what you do there at the jail. And also, by the way, I'll tell Miranda this story real quick, too. Danielle mentioned it to you off air, but I did talk to Danielle about what happened with me and you the first time, and I'm going to be honest. I was actually trying to act like I wasn't as freaked out as I was, but I was kind of shocked about that situation. I did not expect all that with the phone being turned off. That was an interesting experience, and I was like, well, obviously something goes on over here, because I've never seen that happen in my entire life when you got a phone turned off. And of course, that's on our first episode if you want to go back and listen to that back on the first season. But let's talk about the jail a little bit also. And I have something I was going to ask you about. I know you have a cat there. That's Sally, right? That's the name of the cat.
Yes.
Is the cat ever freaked out by anything?
She's never freaked out, but she has had interactions with our spirits here. In fact, I love activity that's captured on security cameras because it's very pure and organic when that happens. And, so a couple things. So I will go back and add, whenever you and I interviewed, that was back in November of 2021, and we had only been open for about 2 months at that point.
Right.
We opened in September of 2021, so everything was really new. We hadn't had very many investigators in here at this point,
right.
And so the activity is really increased.
Oh, wow.
Really gotten crazy since then. But we did take on a little jail cat named Sally. She showed up in April of 2022. She actually lives inside here in the jail. We have all floors open to her during the day. Whenever we leave, if we don't have any night tours or anything going on, we always close the second and third floor off to her, and so she's sequestered down here onto the second floor. Okay. We also close the gift shop off to her because we don't want her getting on our merchandise in there.
Get that.
And so it just so happened last August, we're closed on Tuesdays and Wednesdays. And so Wednesday, I had come in and fed her and left. Thursday morning, I came in to open up. Typically, I work the night shift, but my business partner, Christy Sumner, she usually works the day shift, but she was traveling, and so when I came in on that Thursday morning to open the jail up, Sally was not at the front greeting me like she always would do. She was actually meowing from behind this big, thick metal door where the gift shop is. Now, the gift shop is in one of our former cells, and so it's a very, very heavy, about a 250-pound metal door. And because it is a cell door, the seam closes really tight. Like, you can't just take a finger, or she couldn't take a paw and open it. But she's inside this room.
Oh, wow.
So I thought, okay, I hope I didn't accidentally leave the door open and then it closed on her, or human error. So I actually went back. I pulled my security camera footage, and the door was in fact closed when I left, and it was closed all night long. And you could see Sally roaming about that evening and then up into the night. And so about 5:15 that morning, you actually see inside the gift shop, you see the door slightly open. It slightly opens twice, and on the third time, the door flings open, and something puts Sally in the gift shop backwards.
Ooh.
And shoves her in backwards.
Oh.
And then you hear her meow, and then she paces around meowing. We don't feel that it was anything that was harmful to her or what have you, but we do feel that she probably wanted in there, because there's a voice on the video that says what's in there just before the door opens and puts her in. And it's really a cool piece of evidence, because there's no way that she could have opened it herself.
Not a 250-pound door, no.
Opened it, if she could have opened it to go in, then she could have most definitely pushed her way out. And so that was one of the coolest pieces of evidence, I think, that's come out of here. The other thing is she likes to walk around with us on our tours. And so what's really cool about that is there have been times where she'll kind of lag behind. And we do, on our flashlight tours, we do a little session up in the women's cell. And so we had our K2 meters sitting out, and everything was very quiet until Sally walked in the room. And after Sally walked in and we acknowledged her, it was like the K2 meter just started going off. And you could tell that whoever it was that was in there was really excited and happy that Sally had come into the room. And that's kind of a common occurrence throughout the jail when she takes our tours with us.
So they've gotten very used to her. Cool.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, I was definitely going to ask about the cat and whether or not the cat was going to be scared. Wow, that's wow, that's some interesting footage you have there. That's there's a 250-pound door. Yeah, no cat I know of is no kitty cat anyway could open a 250-pound door. Wow.
No, and that's one of the things we show our investigators. We've got that footage up on the the historic Scott County Jail Facebook page and YouTube channel. And that's one of the things we like to show our guests whenever they come here, is that if they've seen the footage, it's like, yeah, check out the door, and you'll see that it moves, and it's meant to stay closed,
Right.
because we have to keep it open with a door stop, and there's no way she could move it, so we like to let people test that.
That's pretty neat. I like that. Something else too. That wasn't, by the way, that wasn't the podcast equipment. That was the computer. So, wow. So this has been one of them days where something's just still trying to mess with me. I'm loving it. But at least it's not the phone this time. But I don't know. They must know. They must know I'm on the phone with you, Miranda. Whoever's there that must know I'm on the phone with you. I'm dying. I'm cracking up.
They like to mess with equipment.
Oh my
goodness! It's a common thing for our investigators.
But they can't surely mess with equipment through the. I don't know though. After the first time with you, I'm not even going to question whether or not what they can do. Who knows? Who knows what they can do? Danielle, you have anything else you would like to ask Miranda right now?
Yes. So when clients call you, do they ask you to try and get rid of the spirits or whatever's there? Or are they just wanting? What is your job? Just to go there and just say, "Oh yes, it is haunted," I think, or it's not, or to get rid of the spirit or whatever's there?
Well, I don't do as many residential cases as I used to. When I was with the team, I used to do a lot more. For me, I do not remove spirits. I'm of the living, so I don't, and I don't believe that. Personally, I don't believe people have the ability to send them to the light, because what do we know what we're sending them to? I do believe in empowering the people in the location if they don't want to coexist with the spirit that's there. In my opinion, it's up to the people that live in that house to take their space back, because a lot of the time that's kind of what brings them in, and that's sort of what determines if they stay. However, like I said, I don't cast them out. A lot of the time, what I'm brought in for is to either try to come up with a logical explanation or to debunk what is going on, or to give reassurance that, hey, you're not crazy. I mean, this is something that is going on that could potentially be paranormal activity. I have worked a couple cases where I did work, one that I highlighted in season 1 and season 2 of my show, that I did end up working with a demonologist on the case, and as well as a psychic medium that helped remove the spirits from that location. They didn't, again, send them onto the light or anything like that. They just removed them from that location. They had to go somewhere else. But if there is a case where I go in, the family is not able to, or the business, there have been a few businesses in that case, they can't, coexist with them or don't want to for whatever reason, then I will send them on to somebody else that could potentially help them, empower them to take their space back.
Ah, interesting. And so, what are your future endeavors? What do you plan on
What's coming up next for you?
Well, Ghost Biker is still alive and strong. We're working on season 7 of that. As I said a little bit earlier, season 6 is going to be released in the live episodes are going to be released into some produced episodes that will come out in September, or excuse me, they'll be coming out in April. But we've got the other season that's going to be coming out in October, and then which will be season 7. Also got a lot of different speaking engagements that I'm going to be doing this summer, as well as several other Harley-Davidson events that we're partnering, and the funds from that, they go to, specific fundraisers and such. As far as the other side of my business, I do co-own the historic Scott County Jail and historic Rugby After Dark tours and investigations. That is going really strong.
Exactly? Where are those exactly?
So my company is History, Highways, and Haunts, which is co-partnered with Dr. Christy Sumner from Soul Sisters Paranormal. So we co-own the museum here in the historic Scott County Jail, where we have daytime tours, and people can come in and view the True Crime Museum. They can come back in the evenings, as it's a paranormal research center, and they can take flashlight tours, guided ghost hunts, private paranormal investigations. And then back in May, we partnered with the village of historic Rugby, which is about 20 miles from here, and it is an old British utopian village that is extremely haunted. It has a reputation of being one of the most haunted villages in America, and so we do all of their after dark programming. They're open during the day for day tours, but if people want to come back and hear about the haunted history, we offer lantern tours, guided ghost hunts, and private paranormal investigations there at the village of historic Rugby. So it's really cool to have been able to take this hobby that I was doing originally by going out and investigating with friends, to creating a brand with Ghost Biker Explorations, and then using that to meet my business partner and to get connections and learn in the paranormal, to now being an actual location owner with multiple locations. So it's really been cool to see that dream turn into my reality of what I do every day.
Did you think you were going to be doing all the stuff you're doing now?
No. My background is actually in marketing, public relations, and graphic design. And so I spent 22 years in corporate America.
I feel you.
doing marketing and branding and public relations. Right. And honestly, I couldn't be happier. I was wanting to get out of corporate. Yep. And so I never really thought I would be moving back to my hometown, but it was a really good opportunity. I needed to move closer to my mom after my dad passed away. And so to be able to step out, I still use my marketing and my design on a daily basis here running the museum. But I never really thought that something that I was so passionate about with the history, the paranormal, and motorcycle riding, I never would have thought that I could actually make a career out of it.
And I can tell that, and it's one of these things that you can tell when someone's talking about it. You can really tell that you enjoy it. And that's I do. That's the bottom line with a lot of things. That's why a lot of people get out of corporate, because they drag you down. It's unfortunate, but that's true. I was in it for 18 years myself, and I know exactly what you're talking about. So it's always good to hear that motivation in your voice. You can just tell she enjoys all of what she's doing, and that's awesome. Danielle, do you have any?
It's a lot of work. And, we want to do it right, but it's stressful, but it's a different kind of stress.
It's a different kind of stress,
and it's very rewarding.
Yes. I'll link all your stuff up as well when we get the episode ready. I should have it ready sometime tonight.
Tell us where people can find you. Where
Sure.
can people, how they get in touch with you? Where can they go to find you and watch your show and all that good stuff?
Sure. So you can watch all the past 6 seasons of Ghost Biker Explorations on the Ghost Biker Explorations Facebook page or YouTube channel under the same name. You can also see different events that I'm going to be speaking at or that you can get involved in, as well as purchase Ghost Biker merchandise. Watch the episodes on www.ghostbikerexplorations.com. I host a weekly live stream every Thursday night where I have people who are doing things in the paranormal community, authors, location owners, investigators, researchers. Those are the ones I have on. That's every Thursday night at 9 p.m. Eastern time. You can come and see me at the jail or come and take a tour of the jail. If you, all of that information is under www.historicscottcojail.com, the Historic Scott County Jail Facebook page and YouTube channel. We also host a weekly podcast from here, a live stream every Thursday night as well, and that's at 7 p.m. It's called the Jailhouse Informant Podcast, where we talk about history, as well as we have other people who co-own or work inside of old historic jails, and so we share their stories. It's just a very informative podcast. And then you can also look up Historic Rugby After Dark on Facebook, and the main website for all of that is historyhighwayshaunts.com.
Awesome.
Oh, wow. That's a lot of stuff. That's awesome, Miranda.
We stay real busy around here.
Yes, you do. Yeah.
Yeah, I was surprised whether or not I was going to be able to get her in our time slot on the phone. So, because I told her also before, when I talked to her when she first called in, I said, yeah, I have a co-host now. And I said, our main time is on Mondays from 2 to 3 Central Time, because that's the best time for me to have her on. And I said, sometimes that's a little tricky getting a guest on. But it was great to have you.
We're open here.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. Who did I interrupt?
No, I was just going to say we're open here till 4 Eastern time, but I wanted to make sure that I was able to get on with you guys. So
Awesome.
I closed a little bit early today, and yeah, so it was good timing.
Awesome.
Thank you for being here.
Yes, Miranda, thank you so much.
So much.
Yes. Well, that's been a awesome show. Thank you so much. As Danielle just said, thank you as well. I'm saying thank you. I appreciate you coming back and being on the show again. We got some great updates, and I will get everything linked up as quickly as I can and get the show on, hopefully either later tonight or early in the morning. That's usually when I try to do it. I try to get it on the same day if I can, Miranda. But it just depends on my technical, everything else going on with me. But and I made it through without coughing through the episode. I talked to Miranda before I got on. So, okay, Miranda, thank you again so much for being here, and will be a closeout with us.
Bye, Miranda.
Bye. Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.
And that was Miranda Young. She is known as the Ghost Biker, and you can check out Ghost Biker Explorations, and you can check out the Historic Scott County Jail. I have interviewed her before. This is the first time that me and Danielle were able to interview her, and thank you for being a guest here on the 13th Destiny podcast. Thank you for everyone that's listening, and have a great day. God bless.